my spiritual awakening experience.
And I remember feeling like a greater power take over me.
It's almost like I became God or something.
They say, is it okay if we possess you? And I say, yes, help yourself, go for it.
Imagine that my soul is sucked from my body, like my consciousness is sucked from my body.
I was able to reach levels of consciousness that the sages and the mystics of old have been talking about for thousands of years.
Holy fuck, I am God.
Adam and Eve had everything. God had just created the earth, and every animal was living together in peace and harmony. There was no anger, no wars. They didn't even know what death was. They must have had access to food that tasted so amazing we could not even imagine. They were living in paradise. Not figuratively, but literally. However, they were given one rule. In the middle of the garden stood one tree they were not allowed to eat from. If they were to eat from that tree, they would lose everything. Now, what would make somebody break that one simple rule? The tree in the middle of the garden had a name. It was called the Tree of Knowledge. But there's a bit more to it. You see, in the original text, which is written in ancient Hebrew, the tree is called Es Hada Tov Vara. What is interesting about this is the word Da'at, because Da'at does not just translate to knowledge in the sense that you have knowledge about a football game or who's going to win the next election or something, but it can also be translated as awareness or consciousness. So you could say Es Hada Tov Vara means the tree through which fruit one gains the consciousness to be able to differentiate between good and evil.
My consciousness has been changed dramatically.
Trying anything that can help us expand consciousness.
Almost as if the dial of consciousness is just being turned up quite rapidly.
Now, in my opinion, the fact that it could be translated as the tree of consciousness is already a weird coincidence. But I understand if you're not really convinced yet. Just hear me out in the next chapter, because what the Bible describes happening next is the exact same thing thousands of people report today to have experienced after taking psychedelics. One day, while Eve was taking a peaceful stroll through the garden, a snake, which was said to be more cunning than any other animal, approached her.
Is it true that you aren't allowed to eat the fruit of any tree in the garden?
To which Eve replied,
We may eat from all the trees in the garden. Only from the fruit of the tree in the middle of the garden, we are not supposed to eat.
Okay, before we look at what the Bible said Eve would actually experience, we need to clarify what it actually was that her and Adam got tricked into eating. The original text in Genesis 3:3 talks about mi pri has, which is translated with the fruit of the tree. However, the word pri, which is translated with fruit, did not just describe a category of food back then. Pri is essentially just the noun of the root word, para. And in case you are like me and don't know what a root word is, a root word is the basic core unit of a word that holds its primary meaning. For example, the word help is a root word, but then you add some letters depending on the context, like helper, helpful, or helping. But as you can see, the underlying meaning is always the same. Anyways, para means to bear or to bring forth. So mi pri has essentially just means whatever was brought forth by the tree. Okay, and on this note, let's take a moment to clarify why it definitely wasn't an apple. The whole idea of the forbidden fruit being an apple came from the Latin translation of the word malus, which means bad or evil, but also apple.
So nowhere in the original Hebrew text does it say anything about the forbidden fruit being an apple.
It's just that when you talk about the tree of knowledge about good and evil in Latin, it sounds an awful lot like you're talking about an apple tree. But let's get back to the story. The snake is trying to seduce Eve into eating mi pri has, what is brought forth by the tree. Now, this could of course refer to something which was brought forth by the tree directly, like a fig or a plum, or the seed of the Anadenatera peregrina. But there is something else. Something that the tree can bring forth indirectly, because it feeds on its wood or connects to the roots. And if you have seen the thumbnail, you already know what I'm talking about. I'm of course talking about mushrooms. Species of psychoactive mushrooms which are known to feed on rotting wood include, for example, the Psilocybe cyanescens or the Psilocybe azurescens. Other species, which can also contain psilocybin and are even known to grow in the Middle East, are species like the Gymnopilus suspectabilis, commonly known as the big laughing mushroom. Another possibility is that it was a fly agaric, because they have symbiotic relationships with trees and are also known to grow in the Middle East. Ironically, they also look kinda similar to an apple. And there is something else that speaks for the fruit being a fly agaric. You see, the snake told Eve, "You must not surely die." This is interesting because fly agarics are poisonous, but if you do it right, you can have a trip without dying. And of course, this argument would also speak for every other psychedelic mushroom, which is poisonous but not necessarily deadly. But how could the snake possibly convince Eve to break the one rule that was given to her? I mean, she is everything she could dream of, right? She's literally living in paradise. But we all know human nature. Even if we have a happy life with everything we need, we always want the one thing that is missing. And so the snake told her, "For God knows, the day you eat from it, your eyes shall be opened, and you shall be like God."
And I understood that I was God.
I felt completely ethereal, like an omnipresent God. After a while, I thought I had died and merged with God. Then, I thought I was God.
And remember, the tree was literally called the Tree of Knowledge. The snake told her that her eyes would be opened.
Induced these experiences of primordial information downloads from the universe.
He looks up and says, "I know everything."
It felt like some greater intelligence was guiding me through the multiverse and showing me how it worked.
I always do leave these experiences feeling like I got some kind of download, transmission, epiphany. It's just sort of like you have a flash of, oh.
So yeah, I think there are definitely some pretty interesting parallels here, and this video only scraped the surface of the topic. I didn't even get into the whole thing about people talking to entities on those trips, which is something I will probably do in a video in the future. If you're thinking about doing these things, please remember that this perspective of us all being one and being God or whatever might make perfect sense to you while you are in that state of mind, but I swear to you, at the end of the day, it's just a trick by the devil. I really believe this is why Jesus said in John 14, "I am the truth." Lastly, I want to say, in the end, this is all just speculation and a theory of mine. And nobody really knows what happened that day, except Adam, Eve and God. But maybe now you will think twice before trying to expand your mind. I do hope you enjoyed this video, and if you liked it, you will probably also enjoy my first video about David and Goliath, where I also looked into the question of whether Goliath could have been a real giant. So please like the video and consider subscribing, because it would help me out a lot. See you on the next one, and God bless you.